All right. John Fredericks is a Republican commentator and conservative talk show host. David Mowry is a political consultant based in Montgomery, Alabama. One of his specialties is crisis management. So, David, I will start with you. It's hard to determine how much support Roy Moore has in the state of Alabama. I've seen some polls show that the Democrat could beat him, which would be pretty darned amazing in the state of Alabama.
Yeah, it is hard to determine because, and when you speak electorally, the question is, what's the turnout going to be? Does this get people that don't generally like his brand of politics but are still Republicans to stay home? Does it energize Democrats? I don't think anybody can answer the question. I do know that you can tell by what the deafening silence, I think, from Alabama politicians, you can tell where they think this thing is going to end up.
Okay, speaking of Alabama politicians, Jeff Sessions is being grilled on Capitol Hill right now because some lawmakers say he lied under oath about Russian contacts during the 2016 election. But don't you know it? He was asked a lot of questions during this hearing. He was asked specifically about Roy Moore and whether he believed the women accusing Roy Moore of impropriety. Let's listen.
Do you believe these young women?
I have no reason to doubt these young women.
Oh, I wish we would have played the whole thing, but we did not. So Sheila Jackson Lee, John, went on to ask Jeff Sessions, if Roy Moore is elected to the U.S. Senate, would his Department of Justice open up an investigation? So you could see it could get very ugly for Roy Moore if he is indeed elected. So, John, I'm asking you to react to that.
Yes, Carol, thank you, and David. I think the voters of Alabama are going to have to basically litigate this case now that the statute of limitations has run out. I do, though, have to tell you that I take exception to the number of Republican politicians in the Senate who have basically said, well, if he's elected in Alabama, we're going to throw him out. I mean, we have a Republican form of government, Mitch McConnell or Jeff Sessions, for that matter, or anybody in the U.S. Senate, Ted Cruz or anybody else, Cory Gardner, it's not up to them who represents the state of Alabama in the U.S. Senate. It's up to the voters of Alabama. So I think that was very presumptuous. I got to tell you, though, Carol, I took a very in-the-middle position this morning on my radio show. I played two sides of this. I had 102 callers, and it was 101 to 1 through 4 hours, 4 more. So there is definite sentiment out there that there's a lot of people that feel that his side of the story has to come out and that he's being wronged. I don't know what the answer is. I was not there. These women certainly seem credible, but I think it's going to be up to the voters of Alabama to decide if they want Roy Moore representing them. And I get what you're saying,
John, but David, if Roy Moore is elected, those who serve on the Senate right now have an obligation to pay attention to the ethics and the morality of those who serve. So they would have every right, if they think these allegations against Roy Moore are true, to kick him out.
Look, there are rules that govern the body, and they can do what they want. But I do hear what John's saying in that, you know, there is a principle of one man, one vote in this country, and whether you find the behavior or you find his behavior in the past reprehensible, if the people of Alabama duly elect him, it's going to be hard for them not to seat him, and it's going to be very interesting to see what they do if they throw him out. So, I mean, it's a pretty big, you know, it's a pretty big crisis, I think, because, you know, in the end, I think that there's still a good chance that if you listen to what John said about 101 to 1, I think it's probably twice that on conservative radio here in Alabama. And so it's like that might be what we get to, and then things I think will get even more interesting.
So what do you suppose it would be like if Roy Moore is elected, John, and he's mingling among other U.S. Senate members and they're treating him like a pariah?
Well, they have a right to treat him however they feel. I mean, if they don't like him, that's fine. But we have to let the voters of Alabama decide. And I have enough confidence in them. Look, we are 3 weeks out. David and Carol, before this election in Alabama, a lot of things are going to come out in now and 3 weeks. And I think voters in Alabama, they're going to decide whether or not they believe that Moore did these things. And if they did, I could not imagine the voters of Alabama putting him in the U.S. Senate. If, on the other hand, they don't believe that he did these things and they believe his denial and he's up there, then, look, we're not a banana republic. We put somebody in, and the voters of Alabama are not stupid. So we have to respect their right. I don't know what the outcome will be, but certainly Moore has denied these. The women, on the other hand, seem really credible. So I don't know what the answer is. But I think it's got to be up to Alabama.
Well, we'll see what happens a couple of weeks from now. John Fredericks, David Mowry, thanks to both of you.
Thanks, Carol.
Thank you, Carol and David.